Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to All-32, brand new cutting-edge podcast that covers all NFL teams, courtesy of the HogSty Podcast Network. Check it out, thehogSty.com. Sean Conti here with you with the one and only Jamual Forrest. How are you, Jay?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Sean. How you feeling?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for some playoff football. I think this is going to be a good weekend with some good games. And we are joined on the show, by the way, tonight by the one and only Steve Thomas of HogSty Podcast fame. Steve, great to see you outside of the HogSty, man. Welcome aboard.
Yo, Steve.
Yeah, hey, it's a little odd for me to be talking NFL at large, so I'm ready.
Well, good.
I've got Redskins on the brain, but we're moving on to the playoffs.
That's right. Well, we're going to depend on your high-level statistical analysis abilities here as we talk about the games this weekend. So we got 4 games coming up, WIldcard Weekend, of course, and I thought it might be interesting to start with this Houston-Oakland matchup since Steve is down there in Texan land. I know you're no huge Texan fan, but what's the atmosphere like down there right now?
Honestly, I haven't seen much excitement, to be perfectly frank with you. Yeah. It's kind of another day.
Oh, letting us down, Texan fans.
Well, I think they realize that there's a serious quarterback problem, right?
Yeah.
It's no joke. What's going on with the quarterback situation, and I don't see a ton of excitement, like as there would be in New England or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
These folks have seen this movie before. The one and out of the playoffs thing is not new down here.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. In a short history, you guys have made some appearances or at least some runs at it before. But yeah, this is kind of a weird season for a lot of teams that are dealing with quarterback uncertainty. Let's talk about that. It's a great place to start. So Connor Cook has taken the reins down there in Oakland after
Third stringer.
Yeah, which is surprising. And I don't know if you saw, I don't know how closely you're following them, Jamual, but did you notice that McGlone's supposed to be healthy again this next week? Del Rio's going with Cook anyway, which is kind of interesting.
Well, hold on. They must be keeping them out for precautionary reasons. Then,
I
guess
believe
also.
they are. I think so.
Okay, so yeah, they probably taking their chances with Cook because they figure, hey, we can get past a team with no offense, you know what I'm saying, and bring back McGloin next week against whoever they play. But it's that is odd, specifically speaking because it's the playoffs. But we'll see. It's just a weird game to begin with because it's just backups. Like, well, Brock is a starter, but at the same time, we know O'Brien he doesn't want Brock as a starter. So
yeah,
just
right.
a weird game in general at the quarterback position.
I kind of feel bad for Osweiler. So this is a guy that played with Denver, obviously, last year, all the way up to their playoff run, and then got benched. And then, now he's filling in sort of in a backup role in Houston, finding himself maybe getting a chance to play in the postseason. It's kind of an interesting situation. And I think as far as Oakland goes with their...
He can dry his tears in $72 million. I don't feel that bad
Right.
for him.
I'm about to say, I definitely don't, Sean, because he got that money, bro. He messed up early in the season, and O'Brien was not fucking with him at all. I don't blame him.
you make a fair point. Oakland,
but he got a chance to redeem himself. My bad, Sean. But he got a chance to redeem himself against a bad iffy defense. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So I was just going to say, Oakland-wise, here's another fun fact about Connor Cook. This is the first time a quarterback has ever gotten their first start in the postseason in the NFL. Kind of an unprecedented thing. They're dealing, obviously, with a lot of uncertainty there. Raiders lost last week against Denver, but they did beat Houston already once this year. So I don't know if you watched that game last week. It seemed like Cook's only chance really of succeeding here is if the play around him is better. He needs Amari Cooper to show up. Obviously, he has a great deep threat there. But everything needs to go right for them this week that didn't go right for them against the Broncos. Steve, I don't know if you have any stats on Oakland's offense, but...
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Oakland's offense. And what I did to prepare for the playoffs is I did an analysis of every playoff team. And I rank ordered their objective in-season performance in a variety of categories. I'm not going to bore you all with all the categories, but I know what every team is better at and what every team is not good at, etc. And the thing to remember about Oakland, of course, and Oakland's offense is, as you said, they go as Derek Carr goes, Oakland goes, and so the performance that they put out for the regular season is not indicative of what they're probably going to do in the playoffs with Connor Cook. And the way I had their offense is, they're a middle of the pack offense in terms of playoffs. They were, I had them ranked 5th in points among all playoff teams, 4th in total yards, 10th in completion percentage, 6th in quarterback rating. Derek Carr is good. And he's he's probably an MVP candidate, but we're talking about serious teams. We've got, he's facing, the Tom Brady's of the world, the Matt Ryans of the world. When you judge the Oakland at that level, this offense is mediocre by those standards.
Yeah,
and that's with Derek. Sorry, Sean, but that's with Derek Carr. You got to take it a step back again for Connor Cook. I think that the Houston Texans may be the only team that Oakland could beat in the playoffs.
That's a fair point. It's interesting to hear you somewhat talk down about their offense. I mean, I know you're, sort of.
It's compared to the other playoffs teams.
Well, I mean, that's fair. They do rank 6th in total offense, I think. I think we know that, total offense and defensive statistics can lie a little bit, considering how the 22nd ranked, Giants defense just crushed the 2nd ranked Washington offense. But they're really potent offense, middle of the pack in passing, but 6th in rushing. I think that's against a Houston team that ranks 12th in total defense. So you're right. I mean, I think you make a great point there at the end. If there's one team that they can probably, have a great chance to beat, it's probably Houston.
I have Oakland dead exactly in the middle of the pack in terms of offense of the 12 playoff teams. If you add everything up, with their strengths and weaknesses, they're much better in rushing yards. I have them as the third. They have the 3rd most total rushing yards of any playoff team. But it goes down from there. It's not a great offense, and it's going to be worse since Derek Carr's out.
Well, I hear that, to that point, Jadeveon Clowney wants to pancake Cook all game. That's apparently what he said in the media. So what do you guys think the Houston's defense, what's the prognosis for them against this potent offense?
Well, what we say, Houston defense is exactly the opposite of Houston's offense. Houston, I have Houston's defense as the 3rd-ranked defense in the playoffs, behind, the New York Giants, behind the New England Patriots, and they're tied with Pittsburgh, statistically by my ranking system. Houston, they are, they were only 10th in, wrong category. Sorry. Yeah, I mean,
Too many
number
stats.
1 in total yard. Yeah, they're number 1 in total yards of any playoff team. They're number 1 in pass yards defense. They're number 1 in pass yards defense. They're number 3 in quarterback rating. They're 6th in rushing yards. So that tells me they're a better pass defense and a better run defense in comparison, again, to these other playoff teams. So they balance the Texans rather balance themselves out in a way that Oakland does not.
Fair point.
Oakland, put it this way: Houston's defense is better than Oakland's offense.
And I'd agree with that. In terms, specifically speaking, because Connor Cook is the Raiders' starting quarterback going into this game. But in terms of the numbers in itself, I think the best thing that happened to Oakland this season, besides Derek Carr, is the upgrade in offensive line. When you go against a team with a good front seven at Houston, you have an opportunity, if they stick to the game plan and they execute well, you have an opportunity to control the game. We got to remember that Connor Cook last week against the Broncos came in off an injury because of McGloin getting hurt. So, of course, he's going to look like a deer in the headlights. But I'm with Steve in terms of just the overall feel of the game. Just Houston's defense is better than Oakland. I guess Oakland's offense, but at the same time, I think Oakland has a good chance of winning, but at the same time, Houston is they're more sound for this game because you have to go up against and I'm pretty sure we'll get to the Raiders defense soon, but you have to go up against a Raiders defense who struggled all year as well, and Houston is very solid at running the ball. So in terms of just the Raiders offense in general, they do have a shot because of that offensive line. If they can control the line of scrimmage and they can make sure that Connor Cook is put in situations to win and not have, passing situations where they can win, not force passes, not be in a situation where they have to pass every down. stuff like that, then they can have a good shot. But it'll be tough.
I don't know if you guys caught this first matchup between these two teams this year, but Houston beast defense that it is really held Oakland the entire game until they had a total meltdown in the fourth quarter and let it up on those big plays that you're talking about. So yeah, if you can limit that, I mean, I think that's your best shot. I will say,
but they let that fullback go for like 70 or something, like 70-something yards for a touchdown, wide open too.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it was just a total meltdown. It fell apart. So I would say, it's to what Jadavian Clowney is saying, it might be a little tougher to get to Connor Cook. The Raiders are pretty good at protecting the quarterback this year. I think they're third against the blitz. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the prognosis there. It's what you have to do.
It's funny you say that because I have that. I have Oakland as the best sack. I have Oakland as having given up the least amount of sacks of any AFC playoff team.
See, there you go. It might not be so easy as just disrupt the quarterback, get pressure on him.
I mean, I think this game is one of the few games that in this year's wild cards that you can really kind of throw stats out the window because you've got two quarterbacks that haven't played much.
You just don't know.
Connor Cook and Brock Osweiler. It's going to be really, I think, who's going to win this game is the team led by the quarterback that steps up the best. That's who's going to win this game. All the rest of the stuff, because of the circumstance, is I think out the window to a certain extent.
Yeah,
unlike the other games.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the best thing that can happen for Connor Cook. Even though it's the playoffs, they don't really have film on him at all. But in terms of Brock Osweiler, they have probably about 12 games worth. I don't know the exact number, but they have about 12 games worth of film on Brock Osweiler in terms of Connor Cook. Like I said, he was put in the middle of war last week. He couldn't. It's not like he game planned for that start against the Broncos. He didn't look well, but he did make some good throws. Wasn't all good. Wasn't all bad. But at the same time, the best thing that can happen for him is that Houston knows nothing about Connor Cook in the pros. That's the best thing that can happen for him.
It's a great point. And so, you guys do you want to talk briefly about Oakland's defense a little more before we move on to a different game? I had Khalil Mack as a definite, difference maker for Oakland's defense in this game. I think he's definitely going to have to step it up. What'd you guys have? And Steve, if you have any relevant stats, feel free.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, what I've got are the rankings of these teams compared to the other playoff teams, and
sure.
Oakland's defense leaves a lot to be desired. There's a lot of categories that they are lax in. They're not a good sacking team. They're the worst sacking team in the playoffs. They're third from the bottom in points. They're second from the bottom in total yards. Passing yards. I had them ranked 9th in passing yards. There's a lot of things they don't do well. They're buoyed by the fact that that the Houston Texans by a long shot have the worst offense in the playoffs.
Yeah. And
it's not even close. I mean, they are significantly behind every other team in offense in the playoffs. So it's kind of a weakness on weakness situation when you're talking Houston versus Oakland. The one thing that Oakland has kind of done well is they've kept opposing quarterbacks' completion percentage down fairly well. They have gotten a lot of interceptions. So those two things work in their favor, but Houston is more of a rushing team anyway, especially with Brock Osweiler in there. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch. But there's a reason why the NFL put this as the early game on Saturday.
Yeah, they're pretty smart.
The matinee.
But
yeah,
I like
the matinee show.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that. I do think that's the one thing about the Raiders is the fact that they can force turnovers. You have a guy like Khalil Mack, and you got, well, to a lesser extent, but at the same time, who's very solid, Bruce Irvin, who came in from Seattle. We all know about Bruce Irvin, but he came in from Seattle, and they're game changers in the front seven as pass rushers. So those are the guys that can force turnovers and make plays for you up front. But then you got David Amerson, who's aggressive. He's not that solid in coverage, but he'll make plays for you. And he does it naturally. And then you have Reggie Nelson, who's the same way. The safety for them who came in from Cincinnati. they do the same. They do the same thing. He makes plays for them as well. So they give up a lot of yards, but at the same time they can force turnovers. But the key is, like Steve said, the Houston Texans is a rushing team. You got Lamar Miller and Alfred Blue who's very good running backs. And at one time you had Alfred Blue, who was a starter for Arian Foster when he went out for the season, I believe. I don't know if it was last season or maybe 2 seasons ago, but Alfred Blue was a solid running back for them as well. So you got a team who loves to run it, especially when Brock is in, who's top half of the league, if not top 10 in rushing attempts, and they're probably up there in yards as well. So for Houston's strength, that's Oakland's weakness defensively, and that'll be a key because Oakland struggles to stop the run. So that's going to be something that's worth looking at in terms of this game. And it may look boring from the quarterback perspective, but it is some intriguing, aspects of the game.
Yeah. You guys want to venture a guess here before we move on?
Sure. Well, let me go first since I'm the least knowledgeable. You guys are the All-32 crew, so I will venture a guess here. To me, I got to stick with my rankings here.
Sure.
And stick with my system here. So
he's a sucker for the numbers every time.
Yeah, that's kind of my role here. I have Oakland. If you combine their offensive and defensive rankings in comparison to the other playoffs team, I have Oakland as a slightly better team as compared to Houston. But it's in Houston and there's a quarterback issue. So
yeah.
I think I'm going to go with the team that has. Of the 4 units, offense, defense, I'm going to go with the team that has the best unit of those 4, and that is the Houston Texans defense.
Okay.
So, it's in Houston, so I'm going to say the Houston Texans take this, despite the fact that I have them ranked a little bit lower in the rankings.
Steve, I think a lot of people would honestly agree with you on that. I think a lot of experts had Houston picked. I'm going to pick Houston too. I think of the 2 quarterback situations, one's a hell of a lot better than the other, and I think Houston's got the upper hand there in the quarterback competition. Also, pretty damn good defense, and J.J. Watt was out a lot of the year, so I'm going Houston. I think they can pull this one off.
Yeah, and I third it. I really can't disagree. It's hard for me to disagree.
God,
Houston's
if Oakland
at
wins,
home.
we're going to look like idiots, guys.
Not at all.
It's going to be like Oakland 42-3 or something.
We won't see it coming, man, at all.
Yeah.
But just Houston in general, they got a second chance against an Oakland team that they should have beat the first time. And also Brock Osweiler, he gets a second chance. He obviously this isn't the way he wanted to come into a game. Filling in for his head coach's backup. His head coach's starter. That's not the way he wanted to come into this game, but he has a second chance to prove himself to this head coach. And that's one aspect. The second aspect about Osweiler is that he doesn't have any lasers pointing in his eyes like he did in Mexico last time they was playing there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that can also help him as well. And then the last aspect is the rumors.
About that.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. I don't know how many times they really did it, but we seen it about 2 or 3 times for sure.
Yeah.
But the slight little rumor is that if O'Brien doesn't win this playoff game, he may be out of a job after this year. I can't remember the source, but it is an official source I heard that from. Maybe later we can tweet it on the handle if anybody really wants to know about that rumor itself. But
let's do it.
he has something to play for or to coach for as well. So it's a lot of things going for Houston and a lot of people that have to prove themselves. So I see them winning it at home.
There we go, rounding us out. That's 3 picks for Houston. So Jesus, like I said, I hope we're right. But you're right. You're right, Jamal. We shouldn't feel too terribly bad if we're not, because this is a kind of a toss-up game.
It really is.
Let's move from there to Lions Seahawks. I kind of see this as a toss-up game too, guys. Neither one of these teams has put forth that strong a run leading into the playoffs here for different reasons. Here's a funny fact: Lions haven't won a damn playoff game since Matt Stafford was 3 years old.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, that sucks. So
what's that? That's Barry Sanders' years, ain't it?
Yeah, it's 1991.
Probably so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Probably so.
So, they are, I think, really hungry for a win there. They lost 3 straight, though, to other playoff teams, kind of in devastating fashion, including to the Packers there. So, Seahawks have kind of done a similar thing. Okay, they've dropped a bunch of their last few. I think they're 3-3 over the last 6 weeks. So, neither one of these teams is necessarily coming in with a ton of momentum. But, guys, the game is in Seattle, and that probably means a lot. What you guys think?
Well, you want to hear some numbers?
Yeah, let's hear
Want
it.
to hear some rankings and so forth?
By all means.
From an offensive standpoint, overall, Seattle and Detroit are fairly evenly matched from a overall capability standpoint in comparison to what they produced this year. Neither one were a very good running team. Seattle slightly better. And the reason Seattle wasn't a very good running team is they had a ton of injuries all year long to running backs, and Russell Wilson had injuries, and it was crazy. Detroit, on the other hand, just doesn't have a running game. It just doesn't have it, period. Russell Wilson had a little bit of a tough year. It's reflected in his numbers. I had Seattle in terms of quarterback rating as only ranked 8th in the throughout playoff teams, whereas Stafford is ninth, largely because of interceptions and so forth.
Right.
So they're pretty evenly matched in terms of rankings.
Offensively.
Offensively. Yeah. I had Seattle. I had Detroit as 5th and Seattle 4th in the NFC for rankings on offense. So defensively, on the other hand, big difference. Seattle defense is a lot better. I had them ranked as the 2nd-ranked defense overall in the NFC as compared to Detroit.
And that really bears out over
last.
statistics, Steve. I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that.
It does. It does.
See the.
Well, it does. Again, this is compared to other playoff teams.
Yeah. Right.
Seattle. Nobody scored a lot of points in Seattle. As for as many of the struggles as they had, they were actually 3rd in points. New England was 1st in the NFL and 1st in playoff teams. The Giants were 2nd. In terms of the playoff team, Seattle's 3rd. Detroit got scored on a lot. They're 8th. And that's ultimately what's most important. Seattle, total yards, second in the playoff teams. Detroit's 7th. They just produce better results. They're the number 1 sacking team in the playoffs. Seattle is. They just produce better results overall over the course of the regular season, which leads me to believe it will continue in the playoffs against Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, look at the names they've got on their defense, right? Cam Chancellor, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright. They have a really strong defensive lineup. But that said, there's something stinky going on in Seattle's defense, man. They have looked susceptible at times this year. I think they let San Francisco, put up a bunch against them, or at least go up on them early in the game, which is surprising. Yeah. San Francisco's not beating anybody. They let Arizona run away with it on them. It's kind of weird. I feel like I think you make a great point, and it's interesting to hear that it bears out that they're that highly ranked defensively in terms of postseason teams, but they have looked susceptible at times, and Earl Thomas is out for this game, so middle of the field there might be open for Matt Stafford to take advantage of.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I saw numbers yesterday from ESPN stating that with Earl Thomas out, quarterbacks are averaging around like a 98 or 97 passer rating against that secondary. So you do have a great point, Sean, that there's a lot of things that have changed. And I think on the first episode that we talked about Seattle, I think I told you that I thought they were the best chance of knocking off the Cowboys. And I also said I don't know what they look like without Earl Thomas.
That's right.
But obviously ESPN helped me with this. And I changed my tune. But it's just with Earl Thomas being out, it's kind of hard for these guys to produce at the same level because you don't have that experience and you don't have that speed, that sideline to sideline speed to help Cam Chancellor play closer to the line. So it's just things like that where you have to think that Detroit can take advantage of that secondary. However, the biggest issue is what Steve said. Seattle is great at rushing the passer no matter what. That's what they do. They create pressure. And Detroit's line has always been iffy. It's been iffy this year. And this is something that's going to be very important and a key to the game because we all know Detroit's not a rushing team. They're not going to run it against Seattle. I mean, obviously, they're going to try to run it, but they're not going to gain much rushing against Seattle. So
They're going to try, and they're
yeah,
not going to do very well
absolutely,
at it.
exactly. They're not gonna do good at all. And that's my bad. I'd be surprised if they gain yards. Averaging over 3 yards per carry, I'd be surprised. So it comes down to that line of scrimmage and what Steve said. Can they help keep Matt Stafford upright? And that's going to be a big part.
Yeah, the Earl Thomas thing is why, they play the games and why you can't evaluate these games solely based on a stat sheet. I'm happy to give you rankings and numbers and stuff, but ultimately those things are more important, particularly in playoff games, and there's a lot that goes into it other than just numbers.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. I think you need Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Anquan Bolden, and Eric Ebron all to show up. I think the point you guys are making about the running game is, they're not going to ever have a repeat of the game they had against Washington. Detroit's not, that is, and on the ground. But that's not really what they do, as we've noted. You really need those four guys to show up. They've got decent receivers.
Especially Ebron.
Yeah, exactly.
Ebron's heading up against Cam Chancellor, and Cam is a very good defender against tight ends. So, you have for a guy like Ebron who's been inconsistent, but who's shown he's capable of being that. Look, please do not overreact to this comparison. But the young Antonio Gates with the speed that he had, sure, and his hands, his ability, to attack the football and all this type of stuff. That's all I'm comparing him to. I'm not saying he's Antonio Gates.
We'll let you side with that. That's fair.
He's capable of those games, playing like a young Antonio Gates. That's all. Yeah. That's going to be a big matchup, and you're going to have a young guy who's been inconsistent so far in his career to step up, have a big game, and help Matt Stafford out. Because Anquan's too old. He can help out, but a guy like Sherman's going to shut him down with ease. Even though I doubt Sherman's going to be on him, but it's going to be tough. But you're going to have Ebron step up and win majority of his matchup versus Cam.
Yeah, and see, I don't know what to say because the question is, the Detroit is on a 3-game losing streak here. Can they really go into Seattle in crunch time, CenturyLink Field, and get the win? They haven't. I didn't want to say it like that, but I think you got a point there. There's not a whole lot of confidence. They have trailed in 15 to 16 games this season. They've won 8 of those, so they do know how to fight. But this is asking a lot of them to do this.
Well, the other thing you got to remember also is that Seattle's a battle-tested team. They've been to Super Bowls, they've been in the playoffs every year. This Detroit team is nothing of the sort. Stafford's been to the playoffs at least once, I think, but they're nothing like a battle-tested team like Seattle with an experienced coach like Pete Carroll, who's won titles at every level. But, I just think, I had Detroit ranked as the worst overall team by my system, and you guys, this will be published tomorrow, Friday, by the way. But by my system, I had Detroit as the worst overall team in the playoffs, and it's not close.
Yeah.
For a variety of factors, which you can read in the column. So, to me, this game isn't going to be competitive.
Sure. The one thing with me, I feel like I said, they still have to try and stick to the ground game as far as offensively. But another thing that people we will have to look at, we got to remember that O-line of Seattle is banged up. And even if they are completely healthy heading into this game, they're not that good. Russell Wilson does a lot of, improvising back there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be up to that front seven of Detroit, who's actually good at creating pressure themselves. I don't know what their sack total is on the year.
They can't really get sacks, but I think you're right. They get pressure. They can generally contain.
Yeah, they have two good defensive ends. Ezekiel Ansah and
he's elite.
Taylor. I think Devin Taylor, I believe that's his name. I'm not sure. But they got two good defensive ends and a decent defensive tackle. I can't think of his name at the top of my head either. But they have a solid front defensive line, and it's possible that they can go in there and not beat them per se, but they have an opportunity to control the line of scrimmage. So if you can force Russell Wilson to have to drop back and pass because the run game isn't working, then you have an opportunity to tee off on him and keep your offense in the game and wait for Matt Stafford to win it for you. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if they'll win it up in CenturyLink, but I
Right.
wouldn't be surprised if it's close. Probably like a one possession game heading into the fourth quarter, maybe heading into 2 minutes. So,
Well, hit us with your prediction there then. What you think the final score is going to be when the dust settles on the night?
man, let me go. I'll go 24, 24-16, around that. Seattle wins.
Okay.
I can't like it's they're 9-1 since 2000, I think, in the playoffs in Seattle. So it's hard for me to just say that Detroit's going to go out there and win it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they keep it close late. So if they win, I wouldn't be mad. Or I wouldn't be mad that I'm wrong. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I think this is another toss-up, one that could go either way. But I think I'm gonna echo your sentiment there. I think Seattle's gonna take this one again. They don't lose at home, and this is a Lions team that's skidded over the last few weeks. I just don't see them being able to pull this off. Steve also made a great point that I didn't even think about, which is that this is a battle-tested team. It's obvious. This team knows how to win in the postseason. That counts for something. And, in fact, I want to talk about that when we talk about the Giants game later. But, yeah, I'm going Seahawks for this. I think they're going to take it. Score-wise, 21. 21-14 Seahawks.
For mine, I think it's not gonna. I gotta stick with my rankings here. I don't think it's gonna be as close as you guys think it's gonna be. I think Seattle wins this one fairly handily, even with the injuries on the offensive line and to Earl Thomas. So I think this is gonna be something along the line. I just think Detroit's defense just doesn't have it. Even though Seattle's offense has issues, I think this is something along the lines of 27-14.
Oh.
All right, Steve, I'm with you. Well, let's go from there. What do you guys want to do first? And we'll talk about the goddamn Packers, and I'm so sick of talking about the Packers in the postseason, but we can talk about
let's
Packers
save them for
Giants.
last.
All right, we'll go there last. So that means we'll talk.
Miami,
let's do a little Miami Pittsburgh. Now, we had a conversation on the show the other day, Jamal, about the three dirty bees down there in Pittsburgh: Bell, Brown, and Big Ben. Are these three going to make the difference in this game against Miami, you think?
Definitely. Without hesitation. I think the thing is, when we look at Miami, is that they played well. They've won 9 out of their last 11, but at the same time, like I said on the last show, they haven't beaten anybody outside of Pittsburgh that's in the playoffs or win a record. Obviously, Baltimore ended up
that first game. How did that happen?
Hey, that's Jay right there.
That's right.
Ran for 200 plus, so, and a couple scores. So
he did that.
That's
another time this season too.
He did it 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times.
He did it 3 times this year.
Crazy, man.
So yeah, he's a dog. But they haven't beaten anybody outside of Pittsburgh this year with a record that's in the playoffs. Exclude Baltimore because they're 8-8 now, and exclude another team I can't think of at the top of my head. They're 8-8 as well. But they haven't really beaten anybody that's solid. But their defense is they create turnovers. That's the one thing that keeps them in there, and they have a solid rushing game. Yeah. They don't do anything special. And then you have a backup quarterback going in Pittsburgh against the 3 Bs that we talked about, and a defense that's been improving as the weeks went along. They started off bad. They weren't a good secondary. They weren't a good defense at all, but they've improved and became solid as the weeks went along. So Miami has their work cut out for them, and trying to contain the 3 Bs, and we'll just keep it that simple.
Yeah.
Trying to contain them 3, or limit one and contain Bell and Brown is going to be very difficult, and I don't see it happening at all. This is the one where I think they probably win by 2 scores or more. I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Look, I mean, Miami played 5 winning teams this year. They only beat one of those teams. Yeah. They came into this. They're coming into the playoffs. Not exactly on a hot streak.
Yeah.
As we know, they lost their quarterback. Ryan Tannehill will not play in this game. From a ranking perspective, Pittsburgh's offense is just so much more capable, than Miami's offense. I had Pittsburgh's offense ranked fourth.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, third. I had them ranked third in amongst playoff teams. No, fourth. I keep looking at the wrong column here. Sorry.
Get your shit together, Steve, for the love of God.
I had them ranked fourth in the playoff teams. It's they've got all these weapons. Miami doesn't have any of it. The numbers
that's
that Miami
harsh.
produced. The numbers that Miami produced in the regular season is against a weak schedule with a quarterback that's not playing. And so for offensively, I don't think they can compete. And from a defensive standpoint, Pittsburgh has a better defense for the reasons Jamal stated.
Yeah.
It's in Pittsburgh. Miami has injuries. I don't think this game is close either. I think this game is going to be not a snoozer, but a multi-score victory.
I mean,
for Pittsburgh.
you guys are harsh. I hear what you're saying. I can't really argue too hard against it, but I will say J.J. he's a beast. He kind of rescued this
Jarvis
season.
Landry.
Yeah, Jarvis
Kenny
Landry's a
Stills.
hell of a slot receiver. He's got like 1,200 yards or something on the season. Kenny Stills, exactly. Huge vertical threat. So fast. It's kind of unfair to say they've got no weapons, even in comparison. I know that
Kenyon
they're.
Drake, that's my boy too, the rook from Alabama,
See, there you go.
running back. I mean, he's not that special, but he's a solid number 2 back. I disagree with Steve too, but at the same time, I see his point when it comes to Pittsburgh. It's going to be tough for them to make plays against that defense. So I mean, that's why it's kind of hard to disagree with it. But they do have young talent there, and Devontae Parker. Like I don't even know how I forgot about him. He's the big play man right there.
Listen, I'll throw out something else at you guys. This is maybe my prediction, sure to go wrong, or I guess this is my. I don't know. This is my one landmine, I guess, out here. I had actually had Pittsburgh, once I went through all the numbers and everything, I had Pittsburgh as ranked as the third best team in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the reason is, they don't have the best offense, they don't have the best defense, but they're very consistent.
Wait, who's the
in
top two?
everything they produce.
New England and who?
New England and
Dallas.
Dallas.
Okay.
New England
Wow,
and Dallas.
okay.
And those guys are much way better than everybody else in terms of what they've done. But Pittsburgh is solid offensively. They're solid defensively. I think Pittsburgh is the one team that could give New England fits. Actually,
I was just about to say that, Sean. You know what we talked about on the last episode.
That's right. That was your point exactly.
I'd be shocked if it's not them two. And I don't know if they'll play next week if Pittsburgh wins, but
no, it's not. No, they can only meet in the AFC
okay, all right,
Championship.
exactly. So yeah, I'd be shocked if it's not them two, because it's gonna be it's that one team and Pittsburgh is hot at the right moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking past this Miami game. They got this in the bag. So I'm assuming they will play Houston next, right? I mean, not Houston, my bad. Kansas City.
They play
Yeah.
Kansas City.
Okay.
Sounds right.
All right,
Correct.
and that'll be a good game within itself. But I think that's the only team that'll knock off New England at this point. It'll be Pittsburgh and then followed by Kansas City. If that's the case.
Kansas City's a battle-tested
Well,
team,
and
they've done a lot this year.
I think
agree.
But that's next week.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we said it's just funny. Just like Jamal was saying, I think we said Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers are really Tom Brady's only challenge in the playoffs here, and Kansas City, I think, is the one that serves really, the only thing.
That's the dark horse right there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really Steelers' biggest concern outside of New England. So, anyways, interesting. You guys predicted multi-score victories here for Pittsburgh. Do you want to put numbers to that, or are we good with that as a prediction?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll go probably 31 to
Damn.
17, or maybe 31-14, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was in that ballpark too. I didn't have a specific number in mind, but about that gap in scoring is what I think is going to happen. It's going to be the least entertaining football game of the weekend in terms of competitiveness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm about to say it might be exciting with big plays, but definitely probably one-sided for sure.
Yeah, in terms of competitiveness,
Yeah.
it's not going to be the one to watch.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely, I agree.
Well, I will say, just to be a little different, and since we don't know what the Dolphins are really like in the postseason here, they're doing it for the first time in like 8 years under a first-year coach. Who knows? Maybe they're a clutch team that comes alive in the postseason. Who knows?
Uh-oh.
I'm not predicting.
What you about to say?
No. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to predict something crazy like a Miami victory here, but
Okay.
I'm going to say Pittsburgh's not going to necessarily run away with it. Let's say 17-24 Pittsburgh. They'll keep it close.
Okay, so one touchdown victory. Okay.
Yeah, one possession
The
victory.
NFL ratings and marketing department thanks you, Sean.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm just doing my part here. Let's move in. And by the way, I feel like we're hitting a common theme here tonight, which is that we're picking experience generally over the inexperienced teams with a lot of newbies and a lot of teams that don't play in the postseason. We seem to be weighing experience pretty heavily.
Yep.
So on that note, maybe that's a great time to talk a little Packers Giants. Here's a fun.
There's probably gonna be some disagreements with this one.
Well, I think there might be,
Probably.
but here's an interesting point to what I was just saying. 16 of 22 projected Giants starters have never played in the postseason. They've got a ton of new talent and young guys. That is the opposite for the Packers there. Hold on, I have it somewhere.
Eli Manning has 2
Only
rings.
4. That is true, but only 4 of the Packers starters have never played in a playoff game before. Only 4 of 22 players have never appeared in the postseason, and we all know what Aaron Rodgers does in the postseason too, to counteract your Eli Manning argument there. So this could be an interesting game, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, listen, the Giants. I evaluated 10 separate categories on offense to do my rankings here, and of those 10, the Giants were ranked last or second to last in 7 of them.
Okay.
You know, offensively, they just, from a statistical perspective,
We've seen these
they don't
stats from the
produce on
Giants
offense.
before, and they've won both those rings on seasons like
I
that.
understand. That's where I'm going with it. You know, they didn't produce in the regular season. And if you just go by that, logic would say they're just not going to score enough points against the high-flying Packers, you know, who have the third most points scored of any playoff team. But there's always the Eli Manning factor.
Yeah.
The guy comes through in the playoffs. He comes through in big moments, tends to do well. He's sort of the anti-Kirk Cousins in that respect. And when the big moments happen, Eli Manning, comes through, and so you can't discount that. Despite the statistics that look a little daunting offensively.
Sure. Don't you feel like the Aaron Rodgers effect in the postseason counteracts the Eli Manning effect in the postseason, maybe even trumps it?
Possibly so. I mean, I think there's nobody with a sane, rational mind who's not on some extraneous chemicals who would say that Eli Manning's a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
Right. I mean,
Aaron Rodgers might be the best quarterback in the NFL overall when you combine athletic ability, arm strength, accuracy, kind of just general moxie. He might be he and Brady are probably the 2 best in my unexpert eyes. And Eli's been there, done that, but he doesn't compare to Aaron Rodgers.
No.
All my point was that the Giants, I think, are going to overperform their offensive.
Yeah.
What my rankings say based on what they did in the regular season, the Giants are probably going to outperform that simply because of their experience and because Eli tends to rise up. That was my point.
No, I think it's a extremely fair point. That I think they're going to overperform in terms of their stats as well. It's impossible for me to vote against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers right now. They have come alive towards the end of the season. Aaron Rodgers has 40 touchdowns or something this year, 7 interceptions.
Green Bay's won 6 in a row.
6 in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, they are absolutely on fire. And they just...
6 in a row after he said they were going to win 6 in a row.
Yes,
they did just that.
He Babe Ruth called it, man. Pointed to the outfield and knocked one out of the park. So, yeah, I mean, it's just really hard to count against them. I don't think that I could really do it in good conscience. I think this is an uphill battle for Eli Manning and the Giants. That said, I don't know if you guys read some of these stories out of New York this week, but apparently the whole Giants team, when the locker room opened up to media, really confident. Everyone's joking around. Defensive tackle Damon Harrison made a funny joke. He was like, I have experience in the playoffs. I just won a Super Bowl last night in Madden as the Green Bay Packers. He's what he said to the media.
Oh, my goodness.
They're all joking around. They're super confident seemingly, and it seems pretty misplaced. Now, Steve, do you have rankings for where they stack up offensively? Or defensively, I mean. Sorry.
Defensively, yeah. I mean, defensively, the Giants overall, number 2 in points, number 4 in total yards, second in yards per attempt, second in completion percentage. They number 1 in pass touchdowns scored against. number one in opponent's quarterback rating of any team in the playoffs. I have them, overall as the best NFC defense by a long shot.
Yeah.
You have the Giants, you have Seattle, and then you have everybody else in terms of NFC. The Green Bay Packers have given up a lot of yards. They're on a hot streak, but from an overall season standpoint, they've given up a lot, of yards. And I had them ranked fourth. So we know the Giants all too well in this show, on the HogSty website.
Hate them to death.
Their defense is no joke, man. They really aren't. I mean, from a overall standpoint, they. I actually had them ranked as the top overall defense in the playoffs of any team of all 12.
That's fair. I can't disagree with that at all. But I like to say, as far as this offense of New York, they got Eli. Eli knows how to play big time football when it matters. But at the same time, this offense really is as generic as it gets. It really does run through Odell Beckham. As much as and Sterling Shepard is a great slot receiver. Victor Cruz he's fell off in my opinion. He's not the same Victor Cruz that we knew.
Not seeing a lot of salsa dancing anymore.
That torched the Redskins and broke D'Angelo Hall's ankles in the middle of Monday Night Football and put him on a poster and all that type of stuff. He's not that same type of guy. And no offense, D Hall. If I know you probably not listening, but
he's listening.
He might be.
Okay, I won't count him out. But I just feel like he's not the same. But in terms of Sterling Shepard, I think it'll be important for him to have a huge day because in my eyes, I think that the Green Bay Packers would be focusing on Odell Beckham a lot because if Eli cannot get the ball to Odell Beckham, they are not scoring.
Yeah.
They're not scoring, and they just count on their defense a lot to win games for them. And we don't know about their run game as far as the offense in New York. They had success against the Redskins.
Just like
that's
everyone
else. Yeah, exactly. That's their confidence builder right there. So you don't know what they can do offensively in terms of running the ball successfully, but it really does at this point. It goes through Odell Beckham, and Sterling Shepard's going to have a big game against this defense who gives up a lot of yards, as Steve pointed out, but not a lot of points in that win streak. They're only giving up like 18 points per game, something like that.
Yeah, and I had the exact same thing in my notes that you just said. If they can get their receivers on board, they can win this game. And it definitely is going to come down to Odell. So
Nope.
I couldn't agree more. I will say this to your guys' points about Eli Manning. He is 2-0 against the Packers in the postseason, against the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers. So he has a history. Yeah, he has a history of doing this. It's not uncalled for. But the Packers are the best team in the NFL at the scramble drill by far, and that can throw you any time. Even if your team has great defensive statistics, facing Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is always a toss-up. It depends on if you can really play through the entire play to the final whistle, because that's how long Aaron Rodgers is going to play. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting game. I'm interested to hear some predictions. Yep. Did we miss anything? I'm just looking over here.
No, I think no. Let me go first since I'm the newbie here, and we'll save the real predictions for you guys. But I think this is a very close game. I got to go with my rankings say the Giants are a slightly better team overall.
Wow.
And they by far have the best defense, the best of the all four units: offense, defense. The Giants' defense is the best of the four. Yes, the game is up in Green Bay. I recognize that.
Weather's going to be shit. This is true.
Weather's going to be bad, but the Giants' their strength of their defense, I think, they just have good defense, but they have an outstanding pass defense, and the Packers are the Aaron Rodgers show for the most part. So I think for that reason, this is going to be my upset pick. I think the Giants are going to go into Green Bay and win a squeaker, thanks to their defense and some late game heroics by Eli Manning. So I'm going to give the Giants in a squeaker, something like 23-21 type of game.
Okay, close one. I am Jamal. You're right. We are going to have some disagreements. I'm going to go the opposite direction, even though I see all your points are totally well made, and I see exactly where you're coming from. I know that Eli Manning has the historical pedigree here of winning this game against Green Bay. I understand that, and he could totally do it again. I'm not going for it this time. The Packers are really on fire. And we have been leaning towards experience, basically, this entire episode in terms of our other predictions. I'm going that way again. The Packers have all been here before, and they are on fire. I think the Packers take this one. I agree it's going to be close, so I'm going to go. Oh, God, I feel like I've made this prediction like two other times tonight, but I'm going to go 17-21, 21-17 in favor of Green Bay.
Well, I pick sides on this one. I'm gonna go with Steve, bro.
Hey, all right.
I just gotta let you know.
I knew you were my boy.
Yeah, see, and this is the thing, man. The one thing I always know from watching any type of football is that defense travels. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter where they're going. Defense travels. And you're gonna have a headache no matter what type of offense. Whatever offense goes against that defense, they're gonna have a headache. No matter where it is, if it's home or on the road, that defense travels. In New York, statistically, their passing yards, they give up a lot. They're ranked low, but their yards per attempt is one of the best in the league. When you go against a guy like Aaron Rodgers, the best thing that you have to do against Aaron Rodgers is keep him in the pocket. Do not allow him to scramble. Do not allow him to maneuver the pocket and escape it as well, extending plays and creating breakdowns in the coverages. So my prediction would probably be leaning towards like 17-13. But I think that it will be a tough go from the get go with the Packers. It'll struggle. I don't think they'll score in every quarter. I think it'll probably be like a spurt. Maybe they score in the first quarter. Maybe they score in the fourth quarter. But it'll be a tough game for them. So I actually think that they probably keep the Green Bay Packers around like 330 yards, between 335, 350 yards of total offense, which isn't a lot at all. And they'll struggle to get it. So I'm gonna go with the Giants. The Giants. But I will say this though, no matter what the outcome is, if it's the Giants or the Packers, I do feel if I'm wrong, the Packers will be going out of the NFC to the Super Bowl. One of these teams are making it.
Right.
That's just how I feel. Next up will probably be Atlanta, but it's one of these two teams that's the top of my list making it to the Super Bowl. And if I got the Giants winning, and I got them going to the Super Bowl.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, man.
That's a bold prediction, Jay.
Yeah, and if I'm wrong, I'll be happy because I'm a Skins fan, so fuck them. But still, that's just how I feel, man.
Sure.
It's hard to see that offense making it, but that defense travels, and we seen what the Broncos did last year with a halfway retired Peyton Manning. So.
No, that's right. Great point.
And not to say Eli is injured, the offense just is not playing well as all. So.
Yeah, it's a weird off year for him.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, you heard it here first, folks. Those are All-32's predictions for this weekend's wild card games. It should be some good football and interesting stuff for sure. So check back in with us next week. See if we were right. Hopefully we are. For the most part, we agreed except for this last one. So we all crash and burn together, fellas.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but in the meantime, check us out on the HogSty.com. Always tweeting, always writing new content. Jamal's got articles every week, so please get on there and check those out. We see that you're already doing
Check
that.
out my playoff preview that's about to be released. Sean and I are working on a playoff preview that I'm getting all these rankings from. It'll be complete and good, and you guys will like it. Hopefully.
By tomorrow morning?
Yeah, it'll be posted by tomorrow. Right,
okay,
Steve?
Cool. Yeah, because I want to check that out too, man. Because these numbers are interesting. So, yeah, I'll see. I'll wait to check that out tomorrow.
Yes, Steve's a number wizard. Anyways, check us there, HogSty.com, for all this written content. We'll see you next week.
And make sure you guys you guys start getting that Twitter handle up there for the HogSty, man. At the HogSty, TheHogsty, obviously. Follow us on that handle and interact with us on social media.
Yeah, please do. And we'll see you there. We'll see you there. We'll see you there. I'll see you there. I'll see you